Laser engraved screen printing. What?
What the hell are you talking about?
Well, okay. I know it sounds a little bit weird, but stick with me here. Now, we all know about screen printing. Screen printing is the most traditional way of printing t-shirts. It's also the most trusted way of printing t-shirts. If you tell somebody that you're screen printing, the first thing that everyone's going to think about is the quality. Now, when it comes to screen printing, it is a process to be able to get started. So in order to actually print a t-shirt with a screen, this is somewhat of an expedited process. So the first thing that you need to do is take a silk screen and you need to coat it with a blue liquid called emulsion, such as you see in this picture right here. That blue liquid, whenever it's exposed to light, it hardens up. Now that screen is what's used to pass ink over to be able to print a shirt. Now the way you get your design on there is by simply printing out your design on a clear film and putting it on top of that liquid before it gets hard. So before you expose it to light. That's called burning a screen. And the end result is something like this. So it can be a simple block design like this, which can actually be very, very detailed, or it could be something as complicated as this with a bunch of different halftones, a few different shadows, and you can see more depth in the picture. Screen printing is a great way to print t-shirts, but it is also a skill that needs to be mastered. You need to learn proper technique. You need to learn about the different types of screens. The different screens all have different sized holes in them for different ways and different purposes of printing, different inks, different ink formulas, different ink thicknesses. It is an art and it is a science. Screen printing, while generically it can be pretty easy to do, when you want to start getting into things that are very detailed like this, or you actually want to master the craft, then there is a lot to get into. There's a lot to learn. But aside from that, once your image is burned onto your screen, the last thing you need to do is simply put it on a press, slap some ink on there, and squeegee it. Now, if you don't know, this process actually takes some time. So after you actually coat the emulsion, you do need to let it dry for a few hours. Sometimes it can be expedited depending on room temperature, if you have a fan in there and a few other things, but typically people leave it overnight. Now, if you're a crafter and you do a little bit of everything, you know, when it comes to tumblers, you like learning new things, you like doing cups, then more than likely you know a little bit, or at least you've heard about laser engraving. Laser engraving is an entirely different beast on its own, but there are a lot of home laser engravers, with one of the most famous ones being by XTool. Now, if you've heard anything about laser engravers, or if you know anything about laser engraving, then I'm pretty sure you've heard of XTool. They are literally the most popular brand out there. And recently, they actually just decided to get into the screen printing game. Interesting, right? Like laser engraving with screen printing, like how does one work with the other? So earlier today, I was scrolling through Google and it gave me this suggestion for the XTool screen printer. And I saw this and I was like, what is this? This is XTool? Now, I know right now a lot of people probably have a bad taste from Kickstarter in their mouth because of the total scam of Maker Bliss. Now, I made a video covering this back when I first heard about it. I didn't know it was a scam, but the entire campaign was a little off to me. It felt fishy. If you want to watch that video and learn more about it and what I thought about it when I first saw it, you can check this video right here. The link to it is going to be down in the description below. But overall, what this was is a very, I don't want to say advanced because it wasn't necessarily advanced. It was a heat press by a company that was trying to reinvent the wheel. They were trying to make it fancy, futuristic, modern, and honestly, the design itself had a bunch of different flaws. Like there's no room in the back. Also, in the demo that they showed, it was very flimsy. It was horrible. Honestly, I thought that this was a very bad press and I thought it was a total missed opportunity. And on top of that, they had this guy, Dan, that just almost knocked over his makeshift desk. Honestly,
thanks for joining us today as we take a look at the cutting edge technology of
he sounds so excited. But anyway, my entire reaction to this video and this entire Kickstarter campaign is in the description below. So if you're interested in that, which I highly suggest you check it out after you watch this video. But I digress. Let's go back to XTool. So the XTool screen printer. Now again, I said that a lot of people right now might have a bad taste in their mouth because of that last campaign with Kickstarter, but this is with the actual company MakeBlock. So MakeBlock are the people that manufacture the XTool. This is their website. As you can see, they have a bunch of different things. They have the XTools and they have a bunch of different things for kids of different ages. This is pretty cool. I didn't know that they had all this stuff, but primarily they're known for their laser engravers. So they're XTools. Now that in itself actually gives me more comfort in actually backing a project like this. I'm not going to back it myself because I really have no interest in this and I don't need it. I'm not screen printing and I'm not really planning on doing it anytime soon, but I would feel more comfortable backing this one than I would have with the other one. Now, as far as their goal, they had a $30,000 goal, which they absolutely obliterated. They are at $456,000. They're almost at $500,000 with only 1,170 backers. That means each one of these backers put in some pretty good money. But aside from that, there's 23 days to go. And right now we are in November 12th, 2023. So this should be ending by the end of this year, early next year. All right, so let's check this video out.
Screen printing is everywhere.
It's a process that
Screen printing is everywhere. It's not just used for t-shirts. It's used for t-shirts, posters, and a lot of other things.
utilizes silk stencil as well as ink to quickly print beautiful designs on the surface of a variety of objects, whether it's t-shirts,
That looks really cool. Like, it actually looks pretty cool. It looks kind of small, but it looks pretty cool.
whether it's t-shirts, backpacks, posters, boxes, greeting cards, and more. Even the most auction artworks of the 20th century were made using the screen printing process. Here's Andy Warhol. His Shot Sage Blue Marilyn was created with screen printing, and it's auctioned over 195 million. Yeah,
I don't think we're going to create an Andy Warhol that's going to, auction off for 195 mil. But, I mean, stay hopeful, right? You never know.
195 with 6 zeros. The screen printing process hasn't changed in years because its preparation process is tedious and time-consuming. It involves making a frame, stretching the screen, applying the glue, drying,
Okay, so a couple things here really fast. Building the frame. You don't have to build the frame. The frames you can purchase pre-built. You can get them on Amazon. You can get them on Screen Print Direct. You can get them in a lot of different places already built.
stretching the screen.
Stretching the screen. Again, you don't have to do that. It is an option. A lot of people do like to stretch their own screens. A lot of people do like to make their own screens and make their own frames and everything, because at the end of the day, it does cost a lot less to do that. But actually purchasing the screens already pre-stretched and pre-made, it's not that expensive. So when I first started and I wanted to try screen printing myself, I went through Amazon. I don't really know too many suppliers when it comes to screen printing since I don't do it. That's why I'm using Amazon. But a 9x14 inch silk screen runs $19 and you can reuse it. So it's not a huge deal. It's not something that you have to do.
It involves making a frame, stretching the screen.
Okay, so yeah, we talked about the making the frame. You don't have to do that because it comes pre-built. The stretching of the screen. Yeah, so the screen, you can get frames where you remove the screen yourself and you just staple it on, or you can get frames that already have the screen on there and you don't have to change it.
Applying the glue.
It's not glue, it's emulsion.
Drying, developing.
Yeah, drying.
And water.
Developing, I don't know about developing. It's called burning. I mean, I guess it could be the same thing, but in screen print terms, it's burning.
It's a shame that
Washing. Yeah, washing at the end is pretty annoying. The way that you get all of that emulsion off of a screen to reuse it is you spray it down with a particular chemical and then you spray it down with a hose. It can take a little bit of time, but I mean, it's part of the process.
that such a useful and interesting form of art is still far away from our daily life.
That's the typical screen printing when it comes to t-shirts. And for a few other things, if you have to screen print a box or something like that, you can do it on there. You just lay it flat and you put that on top.
Society. So, how can we simplify the process? Introducing XTool's screen printer. In order to simplify this process, our answer is to use laser engraving. You can use XTool's laser engravers on other brands to achieve this result. The second you open the box, it's ready for action. We developed a pre-coated screen. It's easy to...
So that's what they're doing. So what they're selling you is a pre-coated screen. Okay, so you don't have to worry about the emulsion. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. All you have to do is simply burn the screen using your laser. See if I'm right.
to stretch. Just place the screen on the frame, insert the fixing pins, and it's done. The pre-coated formula is thoroughly applied to the screen. The laser engraving process will remove the adhesive from the screen without damaging it. In this way, we made the screen printing process highly flexible and efficient. With our design, we made it easy and intuitive for beginners. Once the stretching process is completed, simply place the stencil into the laser engraver. Whether it's simple text or complex graphics, you'll always get a clean and sharp pattern from it. And now, let's dive into the magical printing world. The quick release frame design.
Okay, so here, right? So you're using the laser engraver to burn your screen. Obviously, you don't have to use an XTool. They're promoting the XTool because it's the same company. But this is my thing when it comes to burning screens using a laser engraver. Now, again, I want to put it out there, making a disclaimer. I'm not a screen printer. I don't know everything about screen printing. I'm just going based off of what I do know and past experiences. But these are just my thoughts. So when it comes to using a laser engraver to burn your screen, screen, I mean, it can work. The reason screen printing is so detailed is because you can use an inkjet printer to print your film. Now, the way it works is it's kind of like vinyl, where you do each color layer by layer, depending on the design, of course, if you don't have shadows and stuff like that, but just going down to the bare basics. If you're doing, let's say, 4 different solid colors, red, blue, green, and yellow, each screen is going to be a different color, which when you think about it with vinyl, it's kind of the same thing. Each layer is going to be a different color vinyl. You screen print each layer in orders, so that way you can get the desired end result. Now, when you do want to get very detailed with things, this is where I'm not entirely sure how the XTool or a laser engraver would work. Let me get this off because I keep staring at this. We'll come back to that. So when you print something through a printer, you can get very detailed. Since you're using an inkjet printer or whatever printer it is you're using, you can do literally just little spots everywhere. You can do any kind of detail that you want. You can do that with a laser engraver, but I don't know how well it's going to do it. You're going to have to dial down a lot of settings. You're going to have to make sure that the power of the laser is right for the watts of the laser itself. So they typically have 5, 10, 20 watt lasers. I have a 5 watt, and the settings for my 5 watt are going to be completely different than the settings for a 20 watt. So my 5 watt I might have at 100%, and it might not be doing a lot. But if you put the 20 watt at maybe, I don't know, 10%, maybe, I'm horrible with math and I don't know what the conversions would be, but let's assume I'm doing my 5 watt at 100%. A 20 watt at 10% could potentially be a lot stronger than my 5 watt at 100. You get me? So you're going to have to dial in your settings pretty meticulously. Now, how does it work when it comes to different shadows? I'm sure it'll work with halftoning, because with halftones you just do little circles all over the place. So something like this would be super easy to do using a laser. This is no problem at all. What I'm talking about is when you start to get to something like this. So you're going to have a different power output. You're going to have different, pretty much different settings all over. And you're going to have to do a lot of trial and error to be able to get something like this. I'm not saying that it's not possible. I'm sure it definitely is. But this is completely new technology that we're getting into, and it is going to have some sort of learning curve. But this is just one thing that I'm thinking about could potentially be, I don't want to say a problem, but I don't know how it would work with a laser engraver. You get me? Now let's continue. Control T for the win.
And now, let's dive into the magical printing world. The quick release frame design will help you achieve a fast and convenient experience during multicolor works. The printer supports objects with thickness up to 60 millimeters. Just lift and print. The job is done. Precision is important. You can easily fine-tune adjustment.
So you see how right here they have that space, and then you have the ink, and they're aligning it to be like right in between. That's called registering, or I think when it gets down to something this particular, you know, up, down, left, right, all over the place, I think it's called micro registering. If you're a screen printer and I'm saying it wrong, I'm really sorry. Just comment down below what it really is, or what the actual term is. But pretty much the entire point behind this is so that way you can align the screens correctly. So if you have 2 different layers, if you have a green and you have a black, you can't just put one screen and then put the other screen on top and expect it to land in perfect position. You have to make sure that the screens are aligned, because the top layer can easily be too much to the left or too little to the left. It's something that's really common, and it's really hard to do unless you can actually register the 2 screens together. There's a few different ways to do this, but having something like this in your press, something that you can turn to adjust to make sure that you have everything aligned correctly, really helps a lot.
Directions with just 3 knobs. The frame is reusable. You just need to change the screen every time you change the pattern. The frame can also be used with other screen printers.
The screen is reusable, as in you can use it again with the same design or for the same design. You're not going to be able to take the emulsion off of the screen, coat the screen again, and then burn a new image onto it. I'm pretty sure what they mean by it's reusable is simply that. You can store it and then eventually put it back on if you need to use it again.
We designed it this way, so you don't have to pick sides.
Oh yeah, and if you don't want to use the actual frame from this right here, from my understanding, it is interchangeable. So you can use this screen with any other press.
It's a great tool to express yourself. We simplified the preparations so you can focus on the creations. Try your hands at screen printing, and you'll be amazed at your own imagination. XTool Screen Printer.
So that was the XTool screen printer. And honestly, the biggest thing that this is taking out of the equation, the biggest thing that this is going to be helping you with is going to be actually burning the screen. This pretty much takes out the entire screen burning process, except for the fact that you actually, in this case, have to literally burn the screen with your laser. But you don't have to worry about coating the screen with emulsion, letting it dry, burning it, and you know, the entire process of doing it. Which honestly, in itself, when I was starting to do it and I started burning screens, yeah, it is something that's time consuming, but I mean, for me, it's just part of the process. But aside from that, it's not that bad. It's not horrible. The longest part of having to do this, honestly, is letting the screen dry. The burning process only took a few minutes, and actually coating the screen with emulsion also only took a few minutes. It's just something that you had to actually learn how to do. You have to experiment with different times of the burning. You have to experiment with different ways of applying the emulsion, which is going to be the same thing with this. You're going to have to experiment with different settings for your laser. So let's go ahead and scroll down a little bit and let's see what the rest of the page is about. So YouTube launch live now on > please check. XTool screen printer. Let's see what they have.
You know, very important artwork,
yeah,
right?
And you hope, yeah.
Multicolor, things like the t-shirt I'm wearing right
Okay, so they're pretty much just talking about it. So keep going. You have introducing XTool screen printer. They talk a little bit about the product, a few GIFs. You know, talk more about the product, reinvent the traditional process. Yes, that is what they're doing. Traditional approach, 1 to 2 days. I mean, yeah. 1 day. I would say 1 day. I wouldn't say 2 days. 2 days maybe if you're building your own screen and you're doing all that stuff. But at the end of the day, when you build your own screen, you can reuse that frame. So I would say 1 to 2 days, right? That's pretty approximate. XTool solution with layers, 1 to 3 hours. That would also depend on how detailed your design is. Because obviously the more detailed the design is, the longer it's going to take to burn it. But I would say 1 to 3 hours based off of previous things that I've burned. That sounds, I mean, I guess that would be about right. Coated screen with easy stretch. Frame design ready in 30 seconds. So yeah, since pretty much all you have to really do is just simply just place the frame. Experience incredible laser speed. I don't know, that right there, it looks like it has shadows in it. It looks like it has some pretty good detail in it. Can't really tell because it's a GIF. But anyway, what I was getting to, sorry, I digressed, is yeah, this is really going to depend on the actual laser that you have. Some lasers are going to be faster than others. Same thing goes with the power output. So that can vary. Extreme detail at industrial level. Could have used a bit more detailed image for this, but okay. There you go. This is what I'm getting to. So this is something that I feel like you're going to have to experiment with your settings quite a bit to be able to finally achieve this end result. But from the looks of it, Make Block or XTool says that you can do it. They say that you can do it. They're showing that you can do it. So you know what? I mean, if they're saying that you can, precise, effortless multicolor over printing. Okay. 3-axis micro registration, easier tiny adjustment. Yeah, so this is what I was talking about earlier. This helps you actually line up the different designs or the different parts of the design. Screen printing, the most artistic printing method. A little bit more about screen printing. Keep going. All right, 60-degree hover hinge, minimal ink spillage. Okay, so what this is talking about is the angle at which the screen sits. So I didn't even know that that was a problem. I never even thought about that. I guess the deeper or the steeper that your screen sits on its press, the more the ink can run. So this is saying that this is only hovers at 60 degrees. So it shouldn't have any running or minimal running or spillage. It can also go pretty high, so you can put a box under it, a fully built box if anything, and you can screen print on top of that. Magnetic squeegee design. Well, that's interesting. Oh, okay, cool. So a lot of people, or I guess maybe everybody, whenever they pass a squeegee, a lot of the times what I've seen people do is they'll take their squeegee and they'll place it on the back of the screen. Then they simply just lift it and then they go on to the next screen. From the looks of it, this one has a magnet on it, so that way it doesn't fall off or anything like that. That's pretty cool. Okay, here's the good part, the pricing. All right, so how much is this gonna hurt us? The XTool screen printer basic kit. This includes 1 frame, 3 screens, a printing press, and other essences. I'm assuming other essentials. This comes out to $199 for the early bird, and the Kickstarter special $229. I think the Kickstarter special, I think this one is after the early bird. So if you missed the early bird, you can only get this one. Then they have the multicolor kit, which includes 12 screens and 4 frames, printing press, and other essentials. This one goes for $369 and $429 for the Kickstarter special. Then the D1 Pro laser combo. This one actually includes a 5-watt laser in a random color. So the laser itself, the frame can be in red, green, black, purple, I don't know, whatever they have. Then it also has the 4 frames, 12 screens, and everything else. Oh, that one goes for $49 and the Kickstarter special for $600. Then they have the same thing but with a 20-watt laser. Now the 20-watt laser is obviously going to be a lot more powerful. The difference really is when it comes to the wattage and how powerful it can be, that just simply means that you can cut a thicker material. So with a 5-watt laser, I have troubles cutting material that's, I don't know, a 1/4 inch thick. A 20-watt laser will cut it without a problem, and it'll cut it a lot faster roster. That one goes for 1,968 and the Kickstarter special 2,028. Then let's see, it's got some optional add-ons, a easy stretch frame, so you have another frame, the different screens for 25 bucks, the water-based inks for 25, and fluorescent water-based inks, interesting, for $25. Shipping, it ships to all of these different countries. Shipping fees will range depending on the package and the country, of course. Project timeline. All right, so December 2021. Wow, this has been going on for a while. Climb to the top position in the laser category. Oh, they're talking about lasers. Initiated explorations into further uses for laser technology. All right, so it looks like they actually started trying to do this back in June 2023, so this year. So they've only been doing this for about half a year now. Okay, not bad. I mean, there's really not too much that goes into it, right? It's pretty simple and self-explanatory. So they're looking to ship in December 2023. So, oh, wow. So their campaign's only going on for a month. 3 years of pioneering. Then they have their different products, risks and challenges. Of course, this tells you nothing's guaranteed. At the end of the day, this could potentially, although highly unlikely, is always a possibility that it could be a scam and you might lose your money, and we will not do anything about it, which is pretty much what happened with the Maker Bliss. They never shipped out. They stopped updating everybody, and Kickstarter is kind of like, well, you're all on your own. So from my understanding, a lot of people are doing chargebacks on their credit cards. Now, environmental commitments, and that's pretty much it. So yeah, that is the XTool screen printer, or the XTool laser engraving screen printer, or what is that they called it? The XTool screen printer. Yeah, that's the XTool screen printer. Do I think it's worth it? I mean, I think everything is worth it for the right person. You know, for me, it's not worth it. I wouldn't back this because I have absolutely no use for this. I mean, if I was a screen printer, honestly, I probably wouldn't back it either, because most screen printers are very hard set on their traditional way of doing things. But if you're somebody that's looking to get into it, maybe if you're screen printing as a hobby, maybe if you're learning how to screen print, maybe if you have kids that you want to do this with, I mean, this could work for you. If you have a laser, then this could definitely work for you because of the fact that you don't have to buy a laser on top of everything. Honestly, at the end of the day, it's really up to you if you find something like this useful. Me personally, I don't, but again, if you like screen printing, if you like screen printing at home, if you want to start it up, if you don't want to go through the entire process of actually, you know, burning screens, finding a place to put them, because that's another thing. When it comes to burning screens, you need to keep them in complete darkness when they're drying. After you coat them with the emulsion, they cannot be exposed to any light. Otherwise, they're going to get hard and they're going to get ruined. Because of that, you need to have a dedicated space or somewhere where they're not going to touch any light, or at least any UV light. If you use one of those regular old school yellow light bulbs, I don't think it affects it, but UV lights will. So in my case, when I first started, I did have a space specifically to burn screens. It was a little space in a shed, but you know, I needed to have somewhere where I could store them. So that's another thing that this actually gets rid of, the need for storage for screens for when you're drying them. So if you want to learn how to screen print, but you're pretty limited on space, I mean, this could work for you. This is a pretty cool way of doing things. It's a modern twist to screen printing. I don't know how well it's going to be accepted by traditional screen printers, but I mean, I guess we'll see. Obviously, this isn't really geared towards veteran screen printers. This is geared more towards people that are coming into the game, people that are experimenting, people that do this as a hobby, or people that don't really have a dedicated space to be able to do something like that. So my final thoughts on this are, it's not for everyone. You know, some people are going to find it useful, some people aren't. It does shorten the amount of time that you're going to need in prep time. So in order to get prepared for a job, in order to get a job started, it is going to take a lot of that time away. So you're going to have a lot more time to actually get the job done. Also, when you kind of think about it, doing something like this also gives you more of an ability to do lower runs. So a lot of the times, because of the entire process, people don't do just 1 or 2 shirts. With something like this, it might be worth it. It really depends on how long it takes. But with that being the case, you also have to make sure that, you know, the designs that you're doing one-offs for are going to be your own designs, because if you do a one-off design for a customer that's never going to come back, then you lost a screen. So it really all depends on your situation, what you're going for, what jobs you like to take. This is pretty specific. It's got its own niche. At the end of the day, you're going to see if it works out for you, if the time it saves is good for you, and if it's good for the types of shirts that you print. If you want to check out the MakeBlock XTool screen printer, just go ahead and check out the description down below. I'm going to have the link to it down there. But yeah, that was the XTool screen printer. Let me know what you think of it down in the comments below. I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Are you confident in actually packing something like this? Do you think it's useful? Do you think it's something that you would use? Is it actually revolutionizing screen printing, or is it revolutionizing screen printing, or is it something that only a few people are going to get and eventually it's just gonna, you know, just be there, just another gimmicky product? Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Huge thank you today for watching, especially if you made it all the way to the end. Truly, as always, it means a lot to me. If you did make it this far, make sure you smash that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that little bell notification as always. And once again, my name is Mario with Nickel Prints. I'll catch y'all next time. Peace.